Well, let's get in here. Let's do it upright. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Likewise.
So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this question. 6 years ago, this pandemic was a real fork in the road, changed so many things for all of us. How did you get through that COVID era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
So that's a big question, right? Because it kind of upended life for a couple of years. And interestingly, I well, number one, we got a big PPP loan check from the government, and I couldn't believe I actually got money from the government, and it was needed because we would have been out of business without it. All business stopped in 2020 for several months, and we would have had to let people go and all those other things. Not necessarily that that was the government's best option, but it certainly helped us out. Um, Things that have changed since then. It was interesting for our industry. We finance business equipment, and it in 2022, um, there was a supply shock, and you couldn't get your hands on new trucks or new construction equipment, which are the two areas we focus very heavily in. And the prices of used equipment were soaring, and lenders were willing to finance this overpriced equipment. So our revenues spiked because someone would finance say a $40,000 truck. That same truck was now $80,000, which meant as the person setting up the deal, you obviously get higher fees. Um, of course, like everything, rubber band, the further you pull it one way, the further it's going to go back the other way, right? And so what happened is after things started getting back to normal, well, those $80,000 trucks were $40,000 trucks again, but you got a business owner making a payment on an $80,000 truck. And of course, that business owner now has lower revenues because um, a lot of things happened. Just a small example in the long haul trucking market, the spot rate, the amount you can go and get per mile when you drive a load in 2022, 2023 was four and change, which normally it's two. It bounces around, but the average is, two and a quarter or so. Now we're back to two and a quarter, but you've got folks that are still paying a note based on an $80,000 truck. They're upside down. Lenders that are taking back that equipment are upside down because it's not appraising at what their underwriting models showed. And so there's a lot of heartburn. I'm sure we're not the only industry where it's very tough to plan your business because of all the changes that have happened. And any financial modeling you did is totally wrong. And no one could have predicted what was actually going to happen.
So let's get into the work that you're doing to understand a little bit more of what you explained with just the financing and what was happening in 2020 to now. I'm going to put you in front of 13-year-olds at career day, and one of the kids wants you to synthesize your day job. What do you do for a living?
When a business owner needs to buy equipment or vehicles, and they don't have the money, we provide them a means. We set up the transaction with a banker and investor so they can get the money to get their equipment and grow their business.
So did you see an explosion during after we came out of COVID? Have you seen a particular spike?
We saw a spike 2 years ago. And back then everyone, Amazon was exploding, and um, everyone wanted to get if you were a driver, Amazon would let you, if you purchased a box truck, you could make more money by doing deliveries as an independent contractor for Amazon. And people were rushing to get these trucks so they could deliver packages. And like a lot of things, a lot of people uh, in the long run weren't too happy about that. From what I understand, Amazon pulled the rug out, and a lot of people were stuck with 5-year notes on these trucks, and didn't work out so hot.
So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
I want to be a doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go to med school? How did you evolve to this point?
You know, I went to a college specifically as a pre-med major. That I picked that college because it was one of the better pre-med schools on the West Coast. And my very first quarter in school, I volunteered at a hospital because that's what you're supposed to do if you're on the pre-med track. And I realized very quickly that I had made a mistake, that this was not an environment I wanted to be in. I was not, I didn't realize until then that I was very squeamish. Um, and so I kind of muddled around for a couple of years in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do and really worrying my parents. And then I took an economics class as a elective, and it spoke to me, and it was I absolutely loved it. Um, and so I got out of college and worked as a stockbroker, which I hated. Um, then I went and worked as a business valuation analyst, which I also hated. Um, and had a lot of jobs that I hated and never ended up keeping a job, always ended up getting fired. And that's how I became an entrepreneur because I figured out it just wasn't going to work for me,
Yeah.
working for other people. I don't like to listen. And so started in it's interesting. So in 2003, um, I got involved with another person. We started a direct mail company, and that company was doing mailers. Now you don't hear people say I'm in a direct mail company anymore. It used to be big. That was how you got business is by sending out mailers, and we were uh, advertising a niche product called a reverse mortgage, and that worked pretty well for about 10 years. And about in 2013, it stopped working out so well. Um, and randomly, and I'll get to my point in
Oh,
just
you're
a
good.
second.
You're good.
Yeah. Randomly, somebody that left our company when the company had started to fail had gone to sell equipment financing. And he was playing basketball with someone who still worked for us. He says, "Well, so what are you doing now?" He says, "I work at this equipment finance company." "Well, how do you guys get business?" "Well, they send out mailers and people call us." So, wow, maybe we can save this business. So I start um, cold calling the people that today are my competitors, guys that run equipment finance companies, and I start selling them mailers and so forth. But as I got deeper into it and start getting to know these guys that were running these companies, they were telling me, yeah, in equipment finance, the rates can be high, but it's okay because you can just lie to people because truckers and construction guys, they don't know. They don't know how to figure out. They might be good at pouring a driveway, but they can't figure out an interest rate. So you just tell them whatever. It's like, well, that doesn't seem very cool. Um, I didn't want to make a career helping people rip off small business owners. And so I said, well, what am I going to do? I had a mortgage and kids and groceries to buy and everything else. So I just decided to start equipment finance company and take all the little scams these guys were telling me about, put them on a website and hope people called. And that was a little more than 12 years ago, and people are still calling. So we're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you a question. Um, if you go back to your beginnings, what were the foundational seeds that were planted for you to not only want to get into medicine, but to be restless and with regular jobs and to finally get into entrepreneurship? What'd you see consciously or subconsciously that led you to finding your true self?
Well, the doctor thing, I grew up in a overly educated family, so it was put in my brain from an early age. You have to go be something. My dad was a physicist. My dad's first job out of school was teaching physics at Princeton. Um, and there's other, scientists. A very science heavy family. My uncle was a Caltech biochemist, that sort of thing. So you had to become something. Is the message we got from a very early age. And what I found, I was in school and I was at a good school. Um, and I wasn't a student. I wanted to party. I wanted to do stuff with my friends, and science was boring. It still is. Um, it's just not my thing. It wasn't until I found business that I found something that I was actually interested in. And I remember being, 22, saying, I don't care if I have a hot dog cart. That'd be better than working for somebody else. But I didn't have any money. I remember I had this car that I had bought for $700, and um, I had to learn how to fix it because I didn't have the money to fix it when it broke. So I had these jobs, um, and always felt like I didn't like the person in charge, um, and probably wasn't about them. It was more about me. Um, and finally, at one point, I got fired for the fifth or sixth time. I don't even remember. And guy I used to work with said, "Hey, I'm starting this direct mail company and I need help." And so I said, "Well, guess I'll do that for a while till I find a job." And 10 years later, you know, I the business was failing, but along the way we'd done pretty well. So, and yeah, at that point I was 40 and hadn't had a job in 10 years. Like who would hire me? And anyone who would hire me for anything I do at that point, I don't know why they would. Yeah.
So who's been your inspirational force? Who's been kind of that heroic force that's allowed you to evolve to where you're at today?
My wife.
Yeah.
Um, so my wife is not an entrepreneurial spirit. She's a nurse, and she's much more grounded than I am. Um, and but at the same time, she trusts me to do whatever. Like, we're not ever going to go broke. I'll always find a way. That's just who I am. But she's pretty awesome. Um, and so she's always had my back. And even when we started this business, the equipment finance, it was a lot harder than I anticipated, and it took a lot longer to get off the ground than I anticipated. And like, I ran up our credit cards. Like, we had 150K in credit card debt. Emptied one of my IRAs, emptied one of her IRAs, and she just trusted me throughout the whole thing.
Oh. So let
Yeah.
me ask you this, in the realm of entrepreneurship, if you can meet one person, one entity on the planet right now and spend some time with them, have a lunch, someone that might help you on your journey, who would you love to meet? Who are you fascinated by?
You know, the online guys, I don't take much stock in. Um, there is a gentleman that at the time was less well known than he is now, and he's like D-list famous in business world. Um, but the smartest guy I know in business, and I worked with him a dozen years ago when he had a small company. Now he's a big shot. It's a guy by the name of Marcus Sheridan. Um, and he talks about his whole he ran a swim his story. He ran a swimming pool company, um, and in 2008 found the internet and figured out how to um, bring people to your website by being transparent, and meaning telling people everything, even the stuff. Here's why you shouldn't buy from me, um, and not being afraid, because not everybody's your customer. And the fact is, when you number one, if you think everybody's your customer, you probably are terrible at what you do because you haven't figured out where you're good and where you're bad. For instance, one of the things he would talk about is his company sold fiberglass swimming pools. And so he had a blog post why you shouldn't buy a fiberglass swimming pool. And how it transformed his business. And I worked with him when I started Smarter Finance USA, um, learning how to show everything. Here's why you shouldn't do business with me. And it turns out most people think that that's crazy, but that builds trust because the people who are your customers are going to appreciate that you told the truth. And the people that aren't your customers, well, you'd rather they don't call you because talking to them is going to waste your time and theirs.
So let me ask you this. What has been the motivation for you all these years to work as hard as you have to get to this entrepreneurial point? What is it that gets you up every day? What is it that motivates you? I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're pulling a lot of strings. It's all on your shoulders. It's not an
Right.
easy gig. But what is it that gets you up every day and motivates you to try and to work and to take care of your customers?
Um, Other than the fact that going out to Mexican food today costs $100.
Right.
Um, no, I mean, there's that, but that only gets you so far, right? You got to pay your bills and stuff. But if you're solely motivated by money, you're not going to be very happy. Um, there's two things. The first of all is I think this is true in any business because it's really a lot of work, and you have to have something that drives you, whether it's something that pisses you off or some people have a calling to help people do X. In my case, in this business, it really pissed me off when people were telling me about here's how we rip off small business owners. And to me, that was like that's really awful. Like I know from, at this point we've done 5,000 transactions. We've helped 5,000 people. And I know from talking to folks when these guys um, talk about ripping someone off for $3,000. A lot of people just starting their business, that's their only $3,000. And you're padding your pocket to steal from somebody. And one thing that's very common in the equipment finance industry is um, you call a broker and you say, okay, I want to buy this thing. They say, okay, we're going to need a first and last payment plus plus some documentation fees, and that's depending on the size of the transaction, a couple $1,000s or something. And there are companies out there that will take that money and then say, oh, that approval we sent you, that was just a pre-approval, and the actual numbers are different. And you'll see on page 4, if you don't move forward with these worse numbers that we quoted you, we're just going to keep your money. Yeah. And to me, I'm like, that's just awful.
Yeah.
Um, and the truth is, they never get in real trouble for it because for $3,000, you can't go get an attorney, and it's usually across state lines. You're not going to travel to Nevada or Texas from New York to fight a $3,000 thing in small claims court. It's just not going to happen.
So what's the word retirement mean to you? When you see the big word retirement flash up before your eyes, how does that factor into your world?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, um, I like what I do. So like I'm getting to the age where some of my friends are retiring or talking about, well, in 5 years I'm going to do this. And that doesn't really interest me. I'm not into golf. At the same time, you have to plan for it because most retirements don't happen because you chose it, right? Is maybe you find out you have heart trouble or your wife has something and you have to take care of her, and that's going to be way more important. And so that's the only way it factors is making sure. Um, like we don't run out and spend all our money on a Lamborghini or something, because we'll need that money at some point. We just can't predict exactly when. But bad stuff happens, and you have to be prepared for that. But to like say, okay, I'm done and I'm going to watch MSNBC or Fox or whatever all day,
Yeah.
um, yeah, you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
totally get it.
yeah,
So, Robert, let's say you had a dream tonight. You ran into the 18-year-old version of you, ready to
yeah,
go out into the world, get everything figured out, and you walk in at your age now and there's a film projector and you click play.
yeah.
60-second highlight reel of your life comes up. Are you going to believe that your life turned out this way? How are you going to feel?
Stoked. Um, like I'd tell my 18-year-old self had angst. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I wasn't sure if I was going to have a happy life. And the truth is, that my life is probably nothing like I imagined it at 18 years old. But at 18 years old, I met the perfect person to make a family with. We made a family. Um, I got to like not work for other people. And the business hasn't always been perfect. No business is, but I got to make it on my own. And to me, that's pretty awesome.
So, in that highlight reel, what are you the proudest of? What stands out?
Probably, well, two things. Number one, like really my family. Like most I'll see comedians and stuff talk about how their wife sucks, and like, it sounds like maybe he can make money by telling those jokes, but I feel bad for the guy. Like I'd rather not be on stage in front of 2,000 people or whatever and be happy about who I chose to spend like most of my waking hours with. But secondly, is there's this concept today that in order to be successful, and I mean, people have different um, measures of success, but in order to be successful, you have to screw somebody, you have to be dishonest, or you have to do something shady. And I've been able to, number one, build a business without being shady, and number two, help other people have jobs that they like. Like not everybody that's worked for us has been a good fit, but there's enough people that have worked for us saying, thank you for starting a business because I'm so happy that I work here. And to me, like that's the best, uh, like, okay, yeah, we did something cool.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family,
Yeah.
friends, clients, everyone that knows you in different bubbles, but you're the one that's the driving force. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I, I have found one of the things that happens when you get older, that's nice is you stop caring, like what people's perception is, especially because you find out that a lot of like as you get, I guess, more mature, that's what you thought someone's perception of you, it was totally the opposite. Um, and it's especially true when you're the leader in a company because there will be people that can't stand you. And to your face, that you're they'll tell you, the world, and behind your back, they have nothing but bad things to say about you. And you can't get upset about that. Like that's literally part of the job. Like people are only going to be nice to you because they have something to gain from it. Um, so the only people that really matter are people that may want to do business with us, and I hope they, we don't have provide a bad look, and I'm pretty sure we don't. Um, and the people that are closest to you, everybody else, like you just can't worry about that.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this, smarterfinanceusa.com, is that the best place for people to go if they want more? They want to.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Um, This has been wonderful, Robert. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yes, sir.